Hello, karibuni. Asanteni for being here with us. That opening tune always gets me excited, and just when I'm getting ready to start dancing, it ends. So there we are. But thank you all for joining us. Sorry we are a little bit late today. We are here with our brother Allimadi Lagoke. I am Nduku, one of the co-hosts on Kumbukeni, an African woman who has joined my brother Lagoke, Allimadi, and other Africans to counter the false narrative that the Western media has propagated against Africa for centuries. It's about time we tell the African story from an African perspective. Ndugu Allimadi.
Yes, comrades, sisters, and brothers, from whatever you're tuning in today, welcome once again to our weekly Chuo Kikuu. Chuo Kikuu, of course, is Kiswahili for university. And how appropriate that we have with us a professor. And he is going to really light it up today because this is a subject of which he is very passionate about, and rightly so. And it's going to be demonstrated in today's conversation why it's a critical topic that more of us actually need to pick up on.
Ndugu Lagoke, you're no stranger to Kumbukeni and our community. Please introduce yourself for those who are new.
Good morning or afternoon or good evening. My name is Gnaka Lagoke. I teach at Lingua University, and then I do history, Pan-Africana studies, and I put emphasis on a new dispensation of Pan-Africanism in the 21st century, which is the Ubuntu Philosophy. So it's a pleasure that Nduku and Milton, two great Africans who are doing great work to advance the cause of Africa and then to help decolonize the minds of Africans.
Yes.
So it's always a pleasure, and then I'm privileged, to know that I can count on them, and then I can claim them as friends in the struggle and in life.
Excellent.
Asante sana. That feeling is mutual. I'm glad you did not say the best, right? I'm glad you didn't say the best African podcast, the best African media.
What did I say?
You said great, but
yes. You guys are great.
Good.
Yeah, great.
Which is good. I don't like when we call ourselves the best this, the best that, right? Because there's so many good African outlets out there.
Definitely.
All great.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Thank you for that. Yes, finally we have Lagoke to talk about Ubuntu. He's been talking to us every time he comes about this Ubuntu philosophy. So let's finally invite him to tell us his observations on the Ubuntu philosophy. Lagoke, when did you first encounter Ubuntu? Because we know it is Nkosa, and I can't say the Nkosa philosophy, the word Ubuntu. When did you first encounter it?
Yeah, so for those who are listening, we don't always do that, but today, for the sake of the conversation, I have to give the context. Those who know me, who knew me when I was growing up as a teenager, they knew that I wanted to do politics, that very soon I discovered the significance of Pan-Africanism. We don't study Pan-Africanism in Ivory Coast. By the way, Ivory Coast is is a francophone country, and the founder or the founding father or the leader of independent Ivory Coast is or was Felix Houphouët-Boigny. There was a time he was at odds with Kwame Nkrumah and Sékou Touré. And then, even though he contributed to advance the cause of the African unity, because he created the Rassemblement Démocratique Africain with many in Bamako, 1946. But later on, when the French put into place some laws, the first one in 1956 called the Outline Law, like in the wake of the transition in Ghana, when Ghana was becoming independent. So the French put together that scheme in order to break the colonial federations and link each African country to the metropolis. While before 1956, the French were ruling the territories within two colonial federations, French West Africa and a French Equatorial Africa. French West Africa, maybe 7 or 8 territories. But now, from 1956, they say, you know what? We're going to, it's still the French West Africa, but each country now is going to be linked to the metropolis. It became a huge debate in Africa between those who wanted the immediate independence of Africa and those who wanted the unity of Africa and those who wanted to defer the independence of Africa and those who wanted like a gradual unification process. Ufo-Boigny was on the side of those who were not in favor of the immediate independence. He supported the Outland Law, and then he was at odds with somebody like Kwame Nkrumah, who was talking about the unification of Africa and who was talking about the immediate independence of Africa. So in this, I grew up, was born in that country. Then, of course, you can imagine that you can study everything that you can, but you're not going to learn things about Afrocentricity, which did not exist back then. You're not going to learn about Pan-Africanism. And then, of course, but I was fortunate and I was exposed by a twist of fate. I discovered some Kwame Nkrumah speeches and many other things that I followed. And I've wanted to do something about Pan-Africanism. Then comes Gbagbo Laurent, the leader of the opposition. After 6 years in France, Gbagbo Laurent went back to Ivory Coast, leader of the opposition, and he was claiming socialism. Then we knew Ufo-Boigny was claiming capitalism, and then we heard about socialism. So we did not study that either. But then, of course, we wanted to know a little bit more. But as a journalist in my mid-20s, when I started, I wanted to understand why those African leaders were talking about capitalism. I knew it was coming from outside. And some other people were talking about socialism, and I knew it was coming from outside. And some other people in Gbagbo's party were claiming Trotskyism because they say that, they were on the side of Leon Trotsky,
Right.
revolutionary. Some other people say, they were Stalinists, claiming Joseph Stalin. Some other people were claiming Maoism from Mao Zedong from China.
Right.
There were even some French names that that are not that popular. So I'm not going to waste time to talk about them. Anyway, they were claiming all those currents and all those trains, and then I was there, my soul of an African. As the saying, I knew it. God.
You're
Hello?
fine. You can. Oh, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, so that's my friend. Well, I don't even know where my people are now. Okay, let me see. Can you see me?
We can see
Okay.
you. We can hear you.
Yeah,
You're
okay.
fine.
So my South African wanted to know if there were an African ideology that we could claim instead of talking about all those ideologies and theories that I knew were coming from outside.
Mm.
And then one of the brilliant guy in Babo's party, he's still alive. He said no, he did not know any African ideology, and for him it was socialism. So I kept because, as I said, we did not study that, and then I was doing other things. So I did not really investigate to discover if there were any African ideology. But deep down in my soul, that was the quest of my soul, because I knew that I was going to promote Pan-Africanism. I had an idea about Pan-Africanism that I needed to study, but I did not know about any African ideology. After 8 years as a journalist in the in Ivory Coast, I come to the United States, then did my master's degree, and then when I entered the PhD program, so I wanted to do. I told one of my professors, I said, you know what, I want to work on Pan-Africanism, Pan-African public policy. I want to talk about regional economic integration. I want to talk about the continental development in Africa. And then he said, okay, if it is what you want to do, then you have to try and look into the Ubuntu philosophy. I swear to God, 2002, that was the first time. Even though I love Mandela, even though I was following South Africa, that was the first time that I was hearing the word Ubuntu. And this is rational. It said that generally when people conceive policies, they have to do the policies according to the ideologies of the people for whom the policies are conceived or articulated.
Correct.
And my professor, I don't know if it's from St. Lucia, his name is Wilfred David, one of the greatest in Africa. He's from the Caribbean, one of the greatest in the African diaspora. And then he said, you know what? Look, for instance, the Western world, the ideology that they claim is capitalism. Russia, the ideology that they claim over there, collectivism, communism, even though, there was like, the Cold War had already ended, and then Russia was not claiming communism anymore. And then he said, with China, even though they talk about communism, but China, from millennia, China claimed or is claiming Confucianism.
Correct.
Yes.
And in the case of Africa, I think that the ideology that we need to promote, which, by the way, he spoke about in one of his books, is the Ubuntu philosophy. So then, for me, that was the peace that I was looking for. That was the quest of my soul. And then since 2002, I systematically read about Pan-Africanism and Ubuntu, and I try to link both of them. And when I talk about things, so this is how Ubuntu, which is about humanness, humanness, humanity, values of love, sharing, compassion, interconnectedness, and then consensus. These are the values of Ubuntu, and I have explored that. I have studied it, and I continue to study. And this is what I used in order to propose my dissertation. And the title of my dissertation is towards a theory of a discourse on regional economic integration towards a theory of a Pan-African authentic development. And in that, which I defended in 2009, I spoke about Ubuntu as the ideological framework around which we can think about the future of Africa. We can think about a novel dispensation of Pan-Africanism. We can also think about a new world based on world justice. That Ubuntu can definitely deal with all those the ills and the stigma of the societies in which we are living, based on greed and individualism. So that's my journey with Ubuntu.
Excellent.
That is an interesting journey, but it's going back to, you encountered a Caribbean, right, African, who has been taken out of the continent to return you to the continent as someone who grew up in the continent, which is the state of our reality as Africans, right? It took me coming to the United States and then engaging with descendants of enslaved Africans in the United States to start returning to my culture, which I had come from, because we are all so mentally colonized. So I do agree with you that we need to join Pan-Africanism and Ubuntu. And I do agree with you that Ubuntu needs to be our way moving forward. And I do agree with you very much so that we need to stop reaching out for the white man's way, right? Socialism, communism, Confucius, whatever. And white man, by the way, I'm including also the Chinese in there, right? And the Arabs. We need to stop reaching for external ways and return to what is ours. And Ubuntu is it. But here goes the thing that I have been encountering. Some Africans, right? You tell them about Ubuntu, especially West Africans. I'm sorry to throw you all under the bus, West Africans, but it just is a fact. When we present Ubuntu to them, they say, oh, we don't do that. That's not our thing. Like, okay, what do you say to these people who say Ubuntu is not their way? As
Yeah, so again, uh, this is our duty, this is our burden, this is our responsibility. It is not their fault. They don't know, right? And then that's why when we are given this opportunity, our job is to explain to people that we have many more things in common than we think. And then this is what I've discovered in my quest, in my research, in my search of Ubuntu. So uh, I there was a time people thought that, oh yes, Ubuntu, it is just for South Africa, and then South Africa or Southern Africa. And then, of course, when my professor told me, of course, he knew about it. And then I took what I learned from him to a higher level. So I needed to investigate so that I can have the arguments to meet people and discuss with people. So the word Ubuntu is come from Zulu. That's what some people say Kosa, some people say Zulu, but it's a Zulu word.
It's okay. Go on.
Yeah, this is what people say. There are several. It's a Zulu word, but the Zulu and this is where you wanted to go. The Zulu and the Kosa, they are part of a group of languages that people that are called the group is called the Nguni languages.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So that's people have to say the Nguni languages. The same way in Ghana, they have the Akan group, and the Akan group is composed of some of the Akan languages. For instance, the Ashanti, the Fanti, the Akwapim, the Bono. These are all those groups are part of the Akan group. But people know the Ashanti. But the Ashanti is maybe the larger, but you have the ones I just mentioned. In South Africa, there are several languages, of course, like in many parts of Africa, but Zulu, Xhosa, they're part of the Nguni languages. Now, the Zulu, the Ubuntu that people are using, the Ubuntu people are using is the Zulu word. The Xhosa will say Umuntu. This is what the Xhosa people will say, Umuntu. The Zulu will say Ubuntu. So you can see there's a slight difference, but it is the same sonority. So that is the first thing that we need to know. Now, when people say, "Oh, of course," I went to a seminar. Oh yeah, people talk about Ubuntu, but we have a different concept. I said, what is the different concept? The Lesotho people from Lesotho or from other parts, they call that Boto. Do you understand? So Boto and then Ubuntu, Umuntu, the same family. So now, when you in the southern part of Africa, you have the same concept in the Shona language. Yes, the Shona, they call that Unhunu. These are they call that in Shona, Zimbabwe, that you can find in some other places. And now that when we discovered that it's not just South African, but it could be Southern African, then the problem is resolved. And now, thanks to the works of people, there is a brother from Burundi, who is a priest. I have always a problem to say his last name, but I'm going to pay tribute to him because among all the people that I've read, there are some other ones, but I want to talk about that gentleman. His name is Symphorien Ntibagirira. That's his name. So Ntibagirira, that's his name. It's difficult to find.
Is it possible to spell it?
I am doing it, but I know I'm not doing right. But anyway, that's his name. Symphorien, easy to know, that's his first name. He, in his work, like many other people, he demonstrated that Ubuntu is not just Southern African.
Correct.
And Joan Broderick, who is, I think, in Africana in South Africa, also wrote about Ubuntu as being an African. And so there you can see people were trying to talk about how you can find the same word Ubuntu like in different African languages.
Correct.
And then I explored, and work of excavation. And then as I was reading all those elements, Joan Broderick, for instance, in one of his books, he wanted to say that Ubuntu is almost everywhere. And then in Ghana, they call that Biakoye. This is what he said. And then in the Yoruba language, we call that Ajobi. This is what he wrote in his book. And then, of course, when I was writing in my dissertation, I repeated that.
Yes.
And then only for me to find out that you can have words similar in spelling and then in sound, similar to Ubuntu in Nigeria and in Ghana, and then in Burkina Faso. And this is what I'm going to share. And then after that, and then I'll close on that question. So as I went there, I went to Ghana. I was presenting about Ubuntu. And a lady, her name is Irene Aldo, a professor at the Institute of African Studies in Ghana. She said, "Oh, Gnaka, by the way, do you know we have that too here in the we have the same thing here in Ghana? I said, really? She said, yes. And she said, we call that Ubuntu. You hear that? I said, Ubuntu. She said, yes. I was so excited. I gave her 20 CDs. Thank God that I had only CDs. If I had dollars, I would have given my dollars. So I gave her 20 CDs. And I went online doing research. But it was so disappointing to see that the Ghanaians who are certainly fighting over socialism and capitalism, many of them have not written substantial research on Ubuntu. And then the same thing is over there. They call that together, same spirit, together for development. And then this hour I read, and I even had some session with Irene Ado, and she guided me for me to say what I'm saying. This hour I discovered that Ubuntu is the extension of Ubuntu in the Akan language. And then I was here talking about, today I'm going to say many people's names. So I have one of my I will say colleague, but a brother from Nigeria. His name is Dr. Iye Jerika, and then he's a political scientist. And then for some reason, somebody who is a great political scientist from Igbo, from the Igbo tribe, who is advocating capitalism. I could not even understand. And then as I was talking about Ubuntu, he said, you know what? We, the Igbo people, we have the same concept, but he wants to use the concept through the lenses of capitalism. And then how the Igbo people call it, they call that the beauty of life. This was the thing I learned from the Professor Ijeruka before discovering that I will remember his name, a researcher, a writer from South Africa, had already spoken about Ubuntu, the Nmamdu, this I call that in Igbo, Nmamdu being the extension of Ubuntu in the Igbo language.
Yeah.
So you can see Ubuntu in Ghana and Nmamdu with the Igbo. When Thomas Sankara came and he changed the name of his country, Burkina Faso, everyone is repeating that Burkina Faso, Faso Malange, which means land or country, and Burkina, which is about integrity, right? Do you understand? So everyone was repeating that. And then I met the Thomas Sankara's family because I saw Carlos Ouedraogo, a guy from Burkina Faso, an artist, on YouTube. He was talking about how Thomas Sankara changed the name and what was the philosophical foundation of the word Burkina. And he used the word Burkindi. Then I went and I met with Pascal Sankara, and then Pascal Sankara guided me. This is how I knew that Burkindi is what people call Ubuntu in South Africa. As you can see, listen now, Ubuntu in Southern Africa, Burkindi in Burkina Faso, Nmamdu with the Igbo people, Ubuntu with the Akan people in Ghana. Listen, we already left Southern Africa. Do you understand? I'm not even going to talk about Uganda, Ubuntu, or Kenya.
I was going to give you that. East Africa, I have it for you.
I read your mind. I saw you coming. Ubuntu and Untu in Eastern Africa. So Eastern Africa, Western Africa, of course, Central Africa with Lingala, Bomoto, and then you go to Southern Africa. So listen, people, it's not their fault. Our job is to try and share with them the knowledge that is there, that has not been explored properly by many of those people who claim to have PhDs and then who seem to be doing work from the Afrocentric lenses. So Ubuntu is a generic word about African collectivism and about a sense of community in Africa that has like a similar sounds or words across the continent of Africa and beyond. And let's say now, when we talk about that, we have to know that when the Europeans divided the African languages, like languages in many in big families, 5 they said, and Saharan, there's another one, Kushite, and then the third one is Niger Congo, and then Niger Congo, you have Niger Congo A, Niger Congo B, and then when they talk about Niger Congo B, you have the Bantu, and then you have the Khoisan, and you have the Austronesian languages in Madagascar. So when they do that, when they talk about Niger Congo A, Niger Congo B, you want to see on the map that they limit Ubuntu, not Ubuntu, the Bantu languages to the southern part of Africa.
Yes.
Right.
But guess what? When you go to Uganda,
In West Africa too.
Sudan, Chad, even Egypt, and then of course West Africa. So out of the 2,000 languages, according to scholars, there are between 600 and 900 Bantu or Bantuid languages.
Mhm.
And now, then people have to know this is what, at least like around what, more than 1/3 of the languages.
Mhm.
If you have time, we can talk about how this was spread, how people discovered that those languages have things in common. Now, when we go beyond Africa, that is now when the conversation becomes more interesting. If you meet somebody from Haiti, or you meet someone from Guadeloupe, you meet somebody from Martinique, or you meet somebody from Trinidad, ask them how they call a human being in their languages, in the language that they use every day to communicate. Because I have done that work. I've spoken to people in Martinique, in Guadeloupe,
Interesting.
the people who claim Garifuna language in Latin America. They call that Moon. M-U-N, which, by the way, in the Bantu languages, a human being is called what?
Mundo. In Kikamba, it's Mundo.
Mundo in some other parts, but Muntu, like in many of those Bantu languages.
In Kiswahili, it's mtu.
Mtu.
Same thing. You see, so like in Guadeloupe, after 300 or 400 years of slavery, this is how, and then for them it is normal. For them, they know that moon means human being because of the closeness created by slavery. But in Africa, we don't know that. So this is what we have discovered in this research. That's why we people who do not know have a job is to come and share the knowledge with them. So this is what I want to say, so that we can move a little bit faster in the conversation, Nduku and Milton.
Okay, very good.
So go on.
So I have just 3 quick points that perhaps you can elaborate on. Number one, I feel very sad that you're coming to this tremendous knowledge after you've already defended your PhD, number one. Number two, when Mandela was asked how he would define Ubuntu, he said back in the old days, when a traveler was traveling around the country and he was tired and he came upon a village and he would come in, he would not have to even ask for food and water. He said that was immediately offered before he even opened his mouth. And then I remember many years ago, in fact, before my teens, maybe I was 10 or 11, I was visiting my mother's village in the northern part of Uganda. And we stayed there for a couple of weeks. And then it was time to till the soil, to dig the soil and to plant. And people came from different homesteads to the farm of one particular family.
Yes.
They dug, they cleared, they planted, and then people went back to their homes. And I asked, I said, wait, I didn't see anybody get paid. Even as a kid, I thought people are compensated for. And then they sat me down and explained. He said, next season, when that person is going to be doing the same to their land, all of us, including this homestead, are going to go and help him clear, till, plant, and harvest. And that to me is another demonstration of Ubuntu. But I want you to elaborate, but I think Sister wanted to add something to it.
Okay,
yes.
let me do the truth so that I won't be confused a little bit.
Yes, okay. Go on.
Yeah, so the first one, you said that it is sad that I have discovered about after I did my dissertation, I did not understand that aspect.
No. You're saying the new elements that you are now.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, no,
yeah.
You are right, my brother. That's not even the only one. Let me tell you this, one day when I finished my dissertation, so of course, English is not my first language. I am Francophone, so I wrote, beside the typos or some of the grammatical errors, people were somehow very pleased, when you hear the title, they say, but not many people were doing Pan-Africanism. I had like one of my friends, we were the two, based on what we were the two, to have done research on Pan-Africanism in 60 years since the African Studies Department was created. Like,
Wow.
I would say, but anyway, many people do not do that. I don't want to exaggerate. People may say, no, it is not true, but they say that in decades, people, when they come, they do the research and they go. We were the two. And then I was, of course, the only one to talk about Ubuntu. So some people were praising me. And then, so myself, usually I don't know how to be content because I'm never satisfied with what I do. So I
Very
knew
good.
the work was not that great. You know, the way people were talking, I knew that there were so many things that I needed to fix. And then one day I met like a white American, a great man in DC, serious about the struggle, Brian Becker. So if you immediately know him, right? Brian Becker. But also is the leader of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. So then I met with the guy. I was so excited. You know, guess what? I was looking for Ubuntu since when I was a teenager or when I was in my 20s. And I said, yes, you know, I just finished my dissertation. Then I proposed, I'm talking about Ubuntu. I mentioned Ubuntu economy. And he asked me a question, get ready for this. I said, what is the mode of production of Ubuntu?
I love that.
Would you hate when they ask you that? But go on.
No. But that was a good thing. Then when he asked me, I say, then I tried to give him the answer. I say, spirit of maybe the community, but the gentleman was right. I did not talk about that in my research. And then here I see myself, that's me. I have that too, my ego. I say, you know what? I started reading. I needed to resolve that issue.
Yes.
So Milton, it's not just about what I discovered. There are
Understood.
two elements. So the Ubuntu, the mode of production of Ubuntu economy, and then all the new elements that I've discovered about Ubuntu. But guess what? You know, God always gives second chances to people.
Correct.
I'm still alive. I'm not dead yet. So my book I'm writing on Ubuntu the title is Ubuntu and the Battle for the Soul of Africa. So maybe next year, everything that I'm sharing with you, I have already started the book. These are the things that we put in that book. So that's the second chance God gave me. Okay, that was the first element. The second element about Mandela, what Mandela said. You know what? Sometimes when I talk about Ubuntu, people say, yes, Ubuntu is not the only one. We have several. Of course, I mentioned already Biakoye, with the Akan, Ajobe, even the Igbo language, they have what? Ibe, I-B-E, which is what? The other, right? So, many in Africa, our community, the people in Africa, it is about a sense of community. It's about others. It is about serving. It is about the individual empowerment, which is linked up to the collective empowerment. Right. So there are several concepts. I'm not saying that Ubuntu is the only one. But now in the conversation, so we want to tell people that if we have several common concepts, it's like when you want to go and play soccer or football, you're going to put on the field your best players, right?
Yes.
Because you want to win.
Yes.
Right.
When people see, for instance, Drogba, they know that Africa means business. Now we have Haller in Ivory Coast. When people see, what's his name? Usain Bolt from Jamaica. You know, Jamaica means business. So if we want to choose some concepts that can be the symbols of our common identity, that can be our claim of our glorious past, that can put emphasis on the linguistic and cultural unity of Africa. Why are we going to go, friends? Be ready for what I'm going to say. Why are we going to choose Ujamaa or the Mahat when it's going to be difficult for whomever uses Ujamaa and then the Mahat to link that to the people in South Africa? But when you say Ubuntu, like we just did, people in Uganda, they know what you're talking about. In Kenya, and people in Nigeria, in Ivory Coast, people in Burkina Faso, in Congo, in Southern Africa. That's why we are using Ubuntu, because Ubuntu benefited from several favorable historical factors.
Right.
Two of them, the rise to power of Nelson Mandela. Number two, the successful transition from apartheid to a multiracial democratic society in South Africa. and many others. That's why we are using Ubuntu. Now, so that's why the integrity, sharing, compassion spread almost everywhere. And now, even before we talk about some tenets of the Ubuntu economy, what he said, that is the spirit that we want to bring back. We want to bring back that spirit in the midst of the African communities. We should not be driven or guided by greed and individualism. We have to have a sense of sharing. And then if you teach one, you reach out, or you reach one. It's supposed to be a communal empowerment.
Absolutely.
These are the values of Ubuntu. So that's why we talk about that. Now, the third element of Mr. I spoke about Mandela, my research. What was there?
No, I just gave an example of the agricultural production.
Yeah, the economic.
I gave the answer of it. So Nduku.
So I understand the need, as you're talking about your dissertation, right? I understand the need for the gentleman who asked you didn't speak on the economic aspect of Ubuntu to have clarity and for it to be spoken about directly. But we have examples like the one Allimadi gave, like my frustration, right? My frustration, and I should be maybe more gracious to my fellow human beings, my fellow Africans specifically, who are not yet where I am mentally, right? The level of decolonizing mentally that I have done. But my frustration is that it's so simple, yet so difficult. Why is it so simple? It's so simple because it's logical. When you break it down, it just is simple for us to get it and start practicing it. But it's so difficult because there's so many things that Africans are holding on to that are preventing them from living in the spirit of Ubuntu. So for example, you mentioned individualism, right? You mentioned capitalism. Africans want to drive fancy cars, have nice mansions, talk about how much they've made it, they've become CEO of this and that, and they're the exceptional African sitting in the boardroom, right? They're holding on to those things. They're holding on to their fear of being fired from jobs. They're feared of going under the Homeland Security watch list. All these things that keep them from just fully embracing the spirit of Ubuntu and being African-centered. So, and as you say that, and I'm thinking Kiswahili, we are in our organization, Jumuiya ya Nguzo Saba, is now actively pushing to spread the language Kiswahili because we believe it's our language of unity. And in Kiswahili, Ubuntu is Utu. But even me, who is very passionate about Kiswahili, can sit and logically say, Ubuntu is related to Utu. But in order for us to have something that is in so many, like you explained, in so many areas, let us adopt Ubuntu as the word and settle with it.
That's it. Thank you very much. That's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly. Even in my country, there is a neighborhood that is called Ubuntu. In Ivory Coast, we have a neighborhood. And even when I did research, there are some languages. In some languages in Ivory Coast, we have the variation of Ubuntu. But again, why are we going to try and use something that is not as popular as Ubuntu to replace Ubuntu? So we have to be very strategic, and this is what we're doing. It's about struggle. It's about what we can use, the tool that we can use to advance faster. Now that we will talk about that in a few. Why Ubuntu became even that popular? We'll talk about that in a few.
Yes.
Finish,
but
yes.
Also, as we continue to talk about linguistics, right? You mentioned all these places from South to Central to East to West Africa, where this one word, you found so many similarities. This is something we are encountering as we start to clean. We're calling it cleansing Kiswahili of the infection of Arabic, Portuguese, Farsi, all the languages that came and infected Kiswahili in the Africa Mashariki, right? East Africa. You have Africans who truly believe, I had this discussion with my brother back and forth, that Kiswahili is an Arabic language, right?
It is not.
I know. Thank you.
Thank
that
you
they
very
don't
much.
see the Bantu-ness of Kiswahili.
Yeah, thank you.
Multiple Bantu-speaking peoples came together and created a language of unity. And so it is upon us to show the evidence. And that's part of the work that Jumuiya ya Nguzo Saba is going to be doing. Going in and taking the Arabic out of Kiswahili and bringing in and extending Kiswahili to even take the other languages from West, from North, from Central, and South Africa so that we can make it more.
So it is so strange, my friend. You know what I'm going to, it's so strange what I'm going to say.
Yes.
I was this morning, and even yesterday, but this morning, I was thinking, I swear, I was even revolted that when I hear people say that Kiswahili is an Arabic language. I swear, I have not studied Kiswahili. But one thing I know, it is a Bantu language.
Yes.
This is what I know. Right? This is what I know.
Yes.
Based on the little thing that we talk about, Ubuntu, this about that.
Right.
And now, but because one of the reasons why it is a little bit it is revolting, because they don't say the same thing about Spanish. Because there are because of the conquest of the southern part of Spain by the Moorish people, by the Muslims for more than 700 years. That conquest ended with the victory of the Battle of Grenada 1492.
Right.
So we see so many words that the Spaniard borrowed from Arabic, but people do not say that Spain is like an Arabic language.
Correct.
When it is about our languages, one of the most popular languages, or even the most popular language that we have in Africa, people are going to tell us that the language is Arabic. They can't do that.
Yeah.
The language has been influenced, even in Ivory Coast. We are creating words in Ivory Coast that the French are putting in their dictionary. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? We are creating words that the French are putting in the dictionary because it is so popular that even the children of the former colonizers of Ivory Coast, even those people, they borrow that language and they put that in the dictionary. One word is the word enjaillé.
I'm so glad you said this, because I said to my colleagues as we continue to do the work, how did Kiswahili affect Arabic?
That's what I'm saying. The people have to do so. Enjaillé is the word everyone, because Ivory Coast, I'm not like that, but many they like to show off.
Oh,
so
yeah. We believe you're not like that.
They use English word, the joy, and then somehow they created the verb enjailler. Everyone is using that in West Africa. The French, they put that in the dictionary there. So listen, so why we always have to see us as people in the position of the people who are dominated, colonized, that even the things that belong to us do not belong to us. Why?
Well, listen, if they went to the ancient ruins of Zimbabwe and they said this was created by Europeans,
can you imagine?
We should not be surprised. We should not be surprised.
They went there, they saw Zimbabwe, there's a kingdom that was there for 200 years. You see, this cannot be done by black people. No, it's not possible. Anyway, so we will have that conversation about the Kiswahili, because intuitively, I think we cannot say Kiswahili is an Arabic language. No, we can't say that.
It's not.
Influence, we get some words from all the languages, but it's not.
I call it an infection, right? We've been calling it an infection. Kiswahili got infected, and we will. It's upon us now to start doing the job. But the way for me it started, I am an Akamba person, which is a Bantu-speaking group of African people, and I encountered friends from Uganda, Luganda speaking, right? I have a friend, Shona. And so as we hang out and they get on the phone to speak to their parents, I'm like, oh, that's a word in Kiswahili. Oh, that's a word in Kikamba.
Yes.
Oh, that's a word in that's a word.
Thank you.
There's no way you people are telling me my language is not mine. It belongs to them.
No. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So, comrade,
yes.
What would you say in terms of the African National Congress, the ANC, the former party of Mandela, the party that helped to spearhead the liberation struggle in South Africa, when it comes to Ubuntu? I don't even have to pose the question. Do they belong in the same sentence? The ANC and Ubuntu.
So
explain.
It's a good say. It's a everyone knows that
he did a ninja attack on you.
No. Everyone knows how much I admire and I love Mandela. So of course, same thing with Kwame Nkrumah. But listen, I love your portion. This one I was when I was looking for that piece of information and I could not find it. Something say, you know what, leave it. Maybe the conversation is going to go in a different direction, which I'm seeing now. Which I'm seeing now. So I said, okay, because I was looking for something I could not find. I said, oh, okay, and I said, okay, leave it. So I love this conversation, and I'm going to talk about something very, very important. I remember the name of the boy, the gentleman. So that I had forgotten, I remember. So listen, to be truthful to history, based on my research, even Mandela himself. If you see that, you can come and tell me. Maybe I did not read properly. If you find the word Ubuntu in Nelson Mandela, a long walk to freedom, if you find the word, I want to see it. Okay. Then I say, I want to see that because I went through the book a long time ago. I do not have time to go again over the book again. If you can find that.
I went through it last night. Maybe I missed it too, but
okay. So if you find the word Ubuntu, please come and share that with me. Why I'm saying that? Ubuntu was an afterthought during the transition in South Africa. People have to know that. Because people have to know that. We love Mandela, we love the ANC. Ubuntu was an afterthought. And then there is a young man, his name is Christian Gade. I don't have the title of the book in my mind, but he has a text that he wrote, and I have the book. Like he did a beautiful work on the evolution of Ubuntu as a word, as a philosophy, in written discourses. So when during the transition, people were talking, they mentioned Ubuntu. They used that in order to sell the constitution they were doing. But in the final constitution, the final draft, the final constitution of South Africa that has been proposed and adopted by everyone, today, the word Ubuntu is not mentioned at all. If you see that also, come and share that with me so that I can say, you know what, I made a mistake on that. So why are we saying that? If there is in the political arena, if there is one guy who use Ubuntu in order to promote, for his political agenda, you're going to be shocked. It is Buthelezi.
Wow. That is shocking and interesting.
Okay, yes, this is what we discover when we do research. It is Buthelezi. In the 70s, in the 80s, Buthelezi of the Inkatha was using Ubuntu when maybe the ANC was struggling between socialism and capitalism. Buthelezi was the one using Ubuntu.
Right. And for listeners who are not familiar, please put Buthelezi in context. Buthelezi is almost like a curse word to some Africans, but please explain to listeners.
Buthelezi was the leader of he has a political party called Inkatha, as a Zulu leader. And then when Mandela was in prison, Buthelezi was in favor of the collaboration with the apartheid regime. So it was because the Zulu in South Africa represent the greatest population. Based on what I know, 22% in South Africa are Zulu, and the Xhosa are 18%. And then even though when the ANC was created, all of them were there. South Africa, there were some Zulu leaders in the ANC, but somehow when the Inkatha party was created, playing on tribalism, on the Zulu nationalism, so somehow there was like a tension between those two political parties, the ANC of Nelson Mandela, the Inkatha of Buthelezi, and then because Mandela is Xhosa, Thabo Mbeki is Xhosa, Govan Mbeki, of course, who was in prison with Nelson Mandela. So somehow we had the feeling and the impression that it was beyond the ideological battle. We had like a tribal war, political and then military between the Xhosa and the Zulu. And then when Mandela was about to be sent to prison, and in his when he was defending himself, in his defense, I am prepared to die. In that speech, Mandela somehow claimed the socialism and also claimed the best of socialism and capitalism. It is there online. So Mandela, it was 64. No one can hold that against him. There was no mention of Ubuntu.
Correct.
So
Yes,
now, but in the 70s, when he was in prison, the one who was promoted Ubuntu, because it is a part, it's an intrinsic, like it's a substantial part of the Zulu culture and so and so. Buthelezi was the one doing that.
very interesting.
And then the writer that I just remember his name is Jordan Gubane. Please note that name. Jordan Gubane. He wrote 2 books, Conflicts in Minds, and then An African Explains Apartheid. He wrote those 2 books. In those 2 books, then you can see some of the things that Buthelezi did in some other writings too. So in Conflicts in Minds, Jordan Gubane, according to Christian Gade, was the first African to articulate Ubuntu as a philosophy. So, but later on, Jordan Gubane left the ANC. I think somehow, I don't know if he joined. He was close to Buthelezi, but later on, he was going to be a member of the South African Liberal Party. Okay. And then he was at the conference in 1958, organized by Kwame Nkrumah with some other people. So now this is the history. In the political arena, Buthelezi, we have to give that to Buthelezi. Now, when the ANC, when the apartheid regime was crumbling, because as we know, the wind coming from the east, the democratization in the eastern part of Europe, the de-Sovietization of the Soviet world, and then the collapse of the Soviet Union. In that context, the Westerners thought that they have won the battle against communism. Therefore, they thought that they could somehow free now Nelson Mandela. That they were presenting as what an agent of communism, and for them that was the reason why they had to put him in prison. And we know that it's because he was fighting against white supremacy.
Right.
So now we see people organizing, talking about the need or the imperative of reconciliation in South Africa. And then Desmond Tutu was now the chairman of the Truth and Reconciliation Committee.
Correct.
Commission. So based on, I don't have the exact numbers, but according to Christian Gade, that he said that when he went through all the documents that were produced, the thousands of documents that were produced during the Truth and Reconciliation Forum debate, many of the documents about the South African Constitution, that the reference of Ubuntu was extremely minimal.
Of course, it is if you're talking about reconciliation in a land where land has been
so it was minimal. But when later on, somebody threw the words, Desmond Tutu cut it, and then they realized that they could use it, they could rally people, and then this is how that entire campaign about reconciliation in Ubuntu started.
Interesting.
So they found a word that was African, knew how to manipulate it to move their agenda forward.
Agenda, yes. I would say the word manipulate, but this is what they did, and we have to be true, the truth to truth. This is what happened. So that's why even Mandela, when he was in prison, when he came out of prison, his first speech in February 11, 1990, many of the things that he said, barely we heard Mandela talk about Ubuntu. Right? But now when they did it and they saw that it could work, it could work, then this is how they positioned Ubuntu. And now scholars, people like Jordan, they had already written since the 60s or since the 70s. And now people started doing research on that now. This is what people need to know about the journey of Ubuntu, like in the political arena in South Africa. I talk about that in the book that I'm writing. Now, so Mandela, after what I just told you, when Mandela left power, if there is a leader, if there is a political leader in South Africa who positioned Ubuntu as the foundation of his governance, it is Thabo Mbeki.
Okay.
Not even Mandela himself. People were talking about that. It is true, but the one The same way Kwame Nkrumah used Pan-Africanism as the foundation of his governance, the leader who used Ubuntu as the foundation of his governance in South Africa is Thabo Mbeki. He organized several fora, sit-ups anyway. So when you do research, you will see that.
Right.
Now,
even his speeches reflected that.
Reflect that. And in some of his action too. Now Thabo Mbeki is gone. And is replaced by somebody who is Zulu, who could have claimed Ubuntu, Jacob Zuma, who certainly did many other good things in some other areas, but we have not seen Zuma claiming the Ubuntu philosophy as one of the pillars of his governance. And then Ramaphosa is a capitalist,
Yes.
a businessman,
Yes.
and then somehow he has not discovered that he could claim Ubuntu while he's doing his business ventures. I'm not done. I'm going to talk about Malema.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Malema. Malema, all of us, we admire Malema. Brave. And he found his political niche, economic freedom of Africa in our lifetime. The same Kwame Nkrumah was talking about the decolonization of Africa in our lifetime. Great. We follow his speeches, everything. So when Malema launched his political party, I was, as soon as I see somebody rising, I did my research. I was a little bit surprised that Malema was claiming Marxism. Of course, you see all of them that in the red uniforms.
Right.
And then later on, I don't know what happened. They realized that Marxism was going to be too complicated. Now they're not claiming Marxism, but they're claiming now scientific socialism.
Right.
That Kwame Nkrumah was claiming that somebody like me, we have transcended. So why I'm saying that? With Malema, with the knowledge that he has, if Malema had sat down, if he had done his research, if he had surrounded himself with the right people, which he can still do.
I was going to add that. He
can still do. Because guess what? When I'm talking about the Ubuntu economy, the argument that I'm using to articulate the Ubuntu economy, Malema's words that he's using to talk about South African economic development through the lenses of scientific socialism. This is what I use in the context of Africa, to defend and advocate and promote the Ubuntu economy, according to what Milton said when you were talking about how people were working farms.
Yes.
So what you see in what I'm trying to do with friends and people, my friends, and what we're doing, it's our personal revolt. We're not going to always claim, the epistemologies of the Westerners.
Correct.
We are not going to claim all the time the paradigms.
We have no languages of our own.
That's it. So that's something at the Canada. So it's not like I said, English is not my first language. I've not studied philosophy in college. When I discovered those things, I said, you know what? Somebody has to do that. That is the expression of my personal revolt. It is also maybe the search of my soul. But we have to do that. That's why we're having that conversation.
Of course.
So if Malema, if you can hear what I'm saying, you are still young. You can say, you know what? Some scholars do that. They take their time to write a dissertation, like a huge book of 500 pages, and then one day they say, you know what? I made a mistake. So, Malema said, you know what? We think that it is time for us to claim our value systems.
Yes.
We have Ubuntu, but all the scholars who can come, let us see how we can articulate the tenets the tenets of the Ubuntu economy that we can claim.
Yes.
Because what he's talking about is what? The distribution of resources, right?
Correct.
The Black economic empowerment. Those Black people who thought that, and the Mandela people did that.
It's literally talking about Ubuntu, yes.
They thought that, you know what? It's because the Europeans, capitalist society, did not want to be bothered. They said, you know what? Okay, even if you cannot nationalize the corporations that are in the hands of foreigners, can you just open up a little bit so that we can have the representatives of Blacks like in the shares of the companies.
Mm.
This is how Ramaphosa became rich.
Including, exactly, I was going to say that, including Ramaphosa, I was going to say exactly what
I heard that, yeah.
So this is like Ramaphosa, and because as they were doing that, the paradigm, it was what? Through the prism of capitalism.
Yes.
They were not thinking about Ubuntu.
Yes.
They were not thinking about like a communal development. So now Malema said, you know what? Instead of having some individual in the claiming or owning or having shares of those corporations, it is good to have there, instead of individuals, the representative of the workers. This is what Malema is saying, which is a revolution.
Yes.
But it is beautiful. But why you have to talk about that through the prism of scientific socialism?
Right.
If we can talk about that through the prism of Ubuntu, that's the work we're doing.
Right.
For me,
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, scientific socialism is a trigger word for me because it's so nonsensical. It's almost as if we Africans have this condition where we cannot resist taking Western ways, and then we want to give them a nice, cute Africanness, right? So therefore, we still want to seem smart, so we call it scientific. And I love Nkrumah, I love him very much, but I want us to detach ourselves from scientific socialism. I have watched black people try to explain it away, and it makes no sense. Ubuntu is our word.
Yeah, but one thing I want to say though, because we have also to try and give them a little bit. It's not like, listen. So be the ANC, be ANC, be Kwame Nkrumah. Just to talk about Mandela and Kwame Nkrumah, and then many others. Even the Zambian leader Kenneth Kaunda, he came with his own concept, humanism, that he was promoting in the Zambia. And even Ufotboyi was claiming capitalism in my country. One thing that is important that I need to rectify that is that even though they were claiming socialism, scientific socialism, African socialism, and capitalism, all of them agreed that there was something that was particular to Africa, which was the African Cultural Foundation. All of them they were claiming that, but many of them didn't, unlike Julius Nyerere, who came with the concept of Ujamaa, but he defeated the purity of his theoretical articulation by calling Ujamaa African socialism. We are not talking about Ubuntu as being African something. It is a philosophy. You have to use the word. They can translate that as humanness or humanness, but it is an African philosophy. The same way we use the word capitalism, that's the same way we need people to understand that that generic term can bring us, all of us, together. And then if many more scholars, and hopefully it is happening, because I see many people now are claiming Ubuntu almost everywhere, even though they don't really have time to study it. But now they know that, why we go to talk about capitalism, we have to talk about our own things, Ubuntu. Yeah, so that's
So I want to add something to just what you said about Nyerere, because if you read all his writings, you see, compared to almost all those other leaders of his generation, he really embraced Africa. He really loved the African essence of everything he did. And I think Ujamaa was sufficient. I think to add African socialism to it was to answer the question that everybody was probably asking, what is Ujamaa?
And then he said that
instead of him saying, go and research what Ujamaa is, I think he found an easier answer was to say, and then African socialism.
He accommodated.
He accommodated. But in essence, he was going all the way there.
No. One thing I like particularly, but in my articulation of Ubuntu, when I was talking to Ndugu last time, one of the things I like about what he did, Nkrumah, of course, spoke about Africa in conscientism. So, talk about the cultural heritage of traditional Africa, Islamic Africa, and Christian Africa. Yes, we know. Nkrumah spoke about that. But when it came to the articulation of Ujamaa, I love what Julius Nyerere did, and I use that in my research. What did he say? The reason why he was against capitalism and the reason why he was against socialism. He said both ideologies were sources of conflict and tension. Capitalism is the exploitation of lower classes by the upper class, or by the upper classes. And then socialism, it is about the dictatorship of the proletariat over the bourgeois.
Correct.
That is what I use in my articulation of Ubuntu. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Listen, by the way, somebody posted, they want to know where they can read your dissertation. One of the people posted
Yes.
on the...
We're going to go. You have a few questions.
No,
we're going to go to them.
The dissertation, I told you already, it is, let's ask them to wait for my new book.
He doesn't want you to see the blunders he made in that one.
The blunders. I told you already. There were things I did not say well. There are some good things, but
it's not his best work. So just
it was a good one. That was not my best, and my best is to count.
Okay, so we'll wait.
What is that? If you go online, some people do. It's on
we'll wait.
After I forgot the name. There are where people put all the dissertation. Yeah, one thing I wanted to say about
before you go to that thought, I was going to jump on Ujamaa and say to you,
go ahead.
To me, I think Ujamaa, as I continue to understand our African being, right, which is the collective of all these philosophies we're talking about, Ujamaa is the economic aspect of Ubuntu, I believe. So Ubuntu is the top. Ubuntu includes our spirituality. Ubuntu includes our social. Ubuntu includes our culture, like music and all that. Ubuntu is our everything, the whole African being. Ujamaa is an aspect of Ubuntu, the economic aspect of Ubuntu, which is what Allimadi was explaining before, where on one farm, the whole community came to help, and then the next season they were going to help on another farm. So for me, Ujamaa is a part of Ubuntu.
Definitely. It's because he put emphasis on that, like communal empowerment, communal work, economy. Yes. So, like I said, like I told you, when I talk about all the things, I go to him on that. Of course, we have the way the Soviets were doing their things. China, we can read what the government tried to do. You were talking about social limit is great, but I think that the time has come for us to claim. And when we see how Ubuntu became so popular, they say now it is up to the researchers to sit down and try. I have a great scholar, Rita. She's I think Igbo. She wrote a great book. I don't remember the title now. She was talking about Africapitalism. She mentioned Ubuntu. She was talking about Tony, the Nigerian guy, the businessman who is helping people. Tony Omelu. That's his name. Yes. So as she was talking about his example. And again, because of the dominance of the Western, the hegemony of Western epistemologies. So everything that we do, we think that we have to do that through the prism of the European.
Yeah.
This is not what we're doing. And so that's but now one other thing, some people say, oh yes, where Ubuntu has worked, people ask me where it was successful for you even to use that. Okay, no problem. What we know is that we have concepts similar to Ubuntu in some of the countries. Of course, we spoke about Confucianism. Then when I'm talking about that because I want to say something about the BRICS. The BRICS.
Okay. Say it.
People are so excited about the BRICS. Yes, I welcome the creation of the BRICS because we want a polycentric world. We don't want the hegemony of the Western world. And we want Africa. One thing I say is that the BRICS give the BRICS gives to Africa the power of choice. Now we can, instead of just dealing with the IMF and the World Bank, now we can go to the Chinese bank and see how we can do business with them. For me, that is the greatest advantage of the BRICS.
Right.
But one thing that the people do that people are not questioning the paradigms upon which the BRICS is functioning.
Exactly. Thank you.
Because if you want to embrace a neoliberalism, you call yourself Russia, or you call yourself China, you call yourself India. I don't even want to talk about Brazil now because I have not seen that sense of hegemony in Lula, right? So I want to talk about those three countries. If you say that you want to come and change the world, the economic infrastructure of the world, and then you go to Africa, and then everything that you do something that is similar to what the Europeans do.
Thank you, please, brother. Speak louder.
Yeah. So what are you changing?
Right.
Exactly.
You are just replacing a master by another master. So,
and why are we seeking outside again instead of you going to Uganda, Kenya, and all the other African leaders?
So yes, so my point is that, but this is what I say in my thing that I'm writing. This is what I say. The same way the Europeans are claiming capitalism and neoliberalism, if Russia, China, and India, Brazil, and South Africa, listen, if they want to come and bring a new economic paradigm, they need to claim a new value system,
Correct.
which can be similar in all those countries, and I'm going to talk about that quickly. In China, I've already spoken about Confucianism, which is about a higher sense of citizenry. That's China Confucianism. In India, we have Satyagraha, hold fast to the truth, that Gandhi claimed to do his non-violent struggle, which is also about a sense of what community and sharing. That's Satyagraha like in India. When you go to Russia, even though we talk about Russia being a communist nation, but something that is a part of the Russian language, the Russian civilization,
way of being,
let's say for hundreds of years, they call that Mir, M-I-R, which means village, community, and the world. You understand? Which is also put emphasis on what? A sense of what? Community. Correct. And of course, in Brazil, I know when President Lula was there, and then when Bolsonaro came, he could not change that. Just want to mention that President Lula put into place a program called Bolsa Familia. How the state in Brazil was supporting the impoverished, and then if they could put their children to school, and according to the data coming from Western agencies, Lula lifts out of poverty more than 20 million people. In the name of what? Economic justice. Yes. And then, of course, in South Africa, we have Ubuntu. So now that we have the Egyptians and the Arabs who are about to join now the BRICS, over there in the Islamic language, in the Arabic language, they have what they call Ummah. Yeah. Ummah is the sense, it's the interpretation of a sense of community among the Arabs. So if we have those 6 concepts, right, that put emphasis on what? Sharing, on collectivism, and the community, why we are going to continue doing business according to the canons of the European hegemonic understanding of the world.
Capitalism.
That's what I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. So now, as you're speaking, I'm reminded of a book I read a long time ago by René Dumont, False Start in Africa.
Yes.
I read that many years ago, and he was touching about some of these aspects in Africans just coming from European colonialism, having flag independence, and continuing the same system that they had.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So that's. Do you have any other questions? Or
we have a bunch in the audience, so let me just go there since we are past the hour. Let me go to one of the questions. Can the Kumbukeni panelists discuss Ubuntu's use as econ political African system, and then can you discuss how Ubuntu can be used to jumpstart the AfCFTA agreement?
Yeah. So that's the conversation that we're having. The conversation is that everything needs to begin with Ubuntu. This is what we're saying. And I did not get a chance to talk too much about it. But when you do the research and you read Cheikh Anta Diop, who spoke about the linguistic and the cultural unity of Africa, and who put emphasis on the linguistic and the cultural correlation between the ancient Egyptian civilization and the Bantu civilization with modern day Africa. When you see that, you understand that when you claim Ubuntu, listen, you're claiming the glorious parts of Africa, and then you are claiming the historical continuity of Africa, you are claiming the soul of Africa, and then you are claiming a Pan-African value system, which is Ubuntu. So this is how we want to establish Ubuntu. Because when Kwame Nkrumah was talking about consciencism, which, by the way, he gave a copy of that a copy of that book to the women, the market women in Ghana. We praised him. Yeah, this is a great book. Even us, when we read, there are parts we don't even understand. He gave that to the market women. That was his ideology that he wanted to use to go and promote Pan-Africanism. So yes, so that's why we think that Ubuntu help us like resolve so many issues. So that is one thing. So when we use that with Ubuntu, with the values of Ubuntu, we can claim an African revolution, an African cultural revolution, where people are using greed and individualism, and then they're hurting each other. If many people understand that, you know what, I prosper because of you, then if I prosper, you prosper. If we understand that, we're going to try and do what the Chinese are doing. We're going to try and do what the Koreans are doing in the United States, what the Hispanics are doing, and what the Vietnamese are doing. We're going to do that. So that is the beginning of the cultural revolution, Ubuntu as a philosophy. Ubuntu as a political system. That's one thing I want to talk about that quickly, because it's going to be a little bit long. Listen, look at the political system in Africa. What do we have? We have the separation of powers, and we learned that, all of us, we're excited. The executive, the legislative power, and the judicial power.
Correct.
Everyone, and then we got that from the Europeans, and then this is what we do. And no one can question that. They think it is okay, it is perfect. And sometimes people say, the democracy, the African, that we need to think about a different ways to do democracy, because what we're doing is not exactly what we need to do, because we are not using our own values. People talk about that, and many people do not propose anything. But with this conversation about Ubuntu, we have done some homework that we're going to share with people. So when it comes to politics, the cardinal value or the cardinal value of Ubuntu that need to be taken into account as we think about a new political system in Africa has to be the notion of what consensus, or the notion of what I call democratic consensus.
Right.
Umoja, if you want. But now listen to this. So, in my understanding, we can have a president. Or let me say it. We take the best of the Western political system, and we take the best of the African political system, the pre-colonial African political system. Consensus, everything that I just told you. So because if you want today, you say, you know what, we want to suppress political parties, you dead. Those ambitious Africans who do not have anything to propose. You muted Ndugu. You are muted. Can you? Yes, you are muted.
Okay.
Yeah. So those Africans who do not have anything to propose, they're going to come with the support of Westerners to come and cause a war in your country. So I'm not saying, like Gaddafi, that we need to suppress political parties. I'm not saying that. But the political parties should not be the main drivers of the African political life in the context of the Ubuntu political revolution. Do you understand? And now, how we do that? For me, I think that just to talk about the parliament, we need to come with a two-chambers parliament in many African countries. In one chamber, in the United States here, we have the House of Representatives, right? And then we have what? The Senate, right? In the United States. And some other countries in Africa, we have that. But what we are proposing is that we can have a House of Representatives, and then we can have the Senate. Those two can be the Congress. But when we have the House of Representatives, we can have one chamber can have the representatives of the political parties. You understand? And another one should be composed of those people who are the economic drivers of Africa that we don't even see in the political arena. In my country, most of the wealth of my country for decades was coming from the cocoa farmers. You don't see them in the parliament.
Farmers.
I just want to give that as an example.
Farmers, yes.
You have to make sure that the people who are producing, who are doing art, are the people who are, like, for instance, in the case of Nigeria, because all the people who are producing, who are doing that cinematographic, like, revolution, all the people, they need to have a voice in a chamber of the Congress in the sense of the Ubuntu political revolution. If we have the farmers, the women, the market women, the people who, the informal sector, all those people, we have them, then we will be debating, because they are the ones who are producing wealth, but they are not represented. They are not represented where they're supposed to be. So that I just choose that Congress as one example that we want to see in Africa. Same thing with the judicial.
Yep.
In Africa, we have taken from the European the understanding of punitive justice. One day, listen to this. One day, I was back home. I was a journalist. My brother is like, it doesn't have all his senses, right? I will not use it back, but well, yeah, it doesn't have all his senses. It's normal, everything. But you know, the psychological development of his person does not match with his biological development. And he was working in a shawarma, which is like some McDonald's here in America, but for the Lebanese. Right. And then one day he wanted to, he said he didn't money in the middle of the month, so he wanted people to give him money so they can go and wash his clothes. And then they did not. They said they did not. The Lebanese said they did not have money, so he took a soap like in powder. We call that in Africa omo.
Oh, we have
all over Africa.
He took the omo, and then he put that in his underwear so that he can go and wash his
clothes at home, right?
And people were complaining about things that were being stolen. They took my brother, the Lebanese or whomever, took him to a police officer that he knows, an Ivorian. And then they put my brother for at least weeks in prison in Ivory Coast because of a soap and powder, Omo. I saw with my own eyes at the registry of the policemen. So what did he do? They put a theft of like soap bags. But they did not say if it was 2, if it was 3. They did not put the number. They put the guy in prison in the worst prison in Ivory Coast for a soap. That stupid understanding of punitive justice in Africa need to change.
Property defense.
So if somebody committed a crime, if he killed people, they can put him in prison for a soap like this. These are things that we used to resolve in Africa, and there was a way. Even when men were committing adultery or women, there was a way to resolve all those things. So we have to find that kind of justice today in the 21st century.
I agree. Totally.
Even though he's not my model, he's not a leader that I will talk about like that positively. I want to think about the gachacha that were put in Rwanda somehow to do a kind of reconciliation, even if in the end it was going to lead to the power of the Tutsis in Rwanda.
Right.
But I'm talking about the model.
The concept.
What's that?
The concept, yeah.
The concept of restorative justice, of redemptive justice, next to the punitive justice. So over there, the judicial system needs to have also 2 chambers, if you can see that. And now, of course, we need to have. In my country, there is a thing that we call the grand mediator, the grand mediator, usually appointed by the president. He does not do. I don't want to use that word. He's there. And then
it's underutilized.
Underutilized, manipulated, and then he's there. And somehow that institution can be changed to what I call the Council of Elders.
I was going to say that's what the national should be. Let's forget the parliaments, the congresses. Those are not our terms.
No,
Let's
no,
call
no,
it
no,
a
no,
council of
let me
community
finish. Let
elders.
me say, I'm trying to say that we take the best from the West and we take the best from Africa. Anyway, so that is one way of dealing. That institution can be there. It should the representatives should not be appointed by the president.
Correct.
Be chosen by the constituencies in the country.
Exactly.
They have to be independent, and they have to make sure that everything that they do has to be about the welfare of the nation.
Yes.
And now the last one that we see almost everywhere, but still controlled by the leaders, it is the chamber of chiefs and kings. They have to be there between the executive, the central government, and the rural area. So everything that about customary laws, land, all these things. So anyway, so these are some of the things that we are proposing. Yes, we are not just talking about Ubuntu like that. We think that he has to permeate every aspect of the African life, culture, politics, and economy that we already spoke about in the beginning. So I want to stop there because there are many other aspects.
Right, and you're embracing all the African history that has come before us.
Yeah. Thank you. Because they did that.
Yes.
Okay.
That's good. We have so many questions, but we are already running out of time. So two of them. One of them, and I'm going to pose the last one, the second one last. So someone wants you to provide information about the conference in Lomé. So you can do that. But also the question, ask the professor about I call him Ndugu Lagoke because I'm not about doctor this and doctor that, just given the whole hierarchy and colonial and imperialist and capitalist system. So, but he is Dr. Lagoke. So about the argument that's being made by this Senegalese woman who is arguing that colonialism is not, but also before we do this, we need to address this video, and I don't know if we're going to do a show for it, or Allimadi, I don't know if we're going to do a specific show for it, of the founder of Blackwater going around talking about the United States should colonize Africa again. Lagoke, I don't know if you've seen that video. Keep that in, just put a pin on that. Let's address this question first. Ask the professor about the argument that's being made by this Senegalese woman who is arguing that colonialism is not the cause of poverty in Africa, but socialism during the independence epoch. I mean, I was going to dismiss it, but go ahead.
Yeah, so, people, this is our job. Our job is to listen, to hear all these things.
And educate, right.
Yeah, so educate people. I don't know who this Senegalese woman is. Maybe she may be one of those greatest scholars in Africa, but who has like a narrow view.
You're a very gracious man.
A narrow view of the fate of Africa. So I don't know. And I don't know if somebody I know or somebody we meet that I want to be I want to be.
You don't want to burn that bridge.
I don't want to do that. But because one thing that people need to know, and this is what we're trying to tell people. And I want to make sure I don't waste too much time on that. Because one thing people have to know when I'm teaching a history of Africa, this is what I say. Okay, Europeans, they came out of the Middle Ages. Spain freed, they took over the southern part of Spain, expelled the Moorish people. The Europeans understood the importance of the Renaissance of Europe. That, by the way, was going to be the foundation of the enslavement of non-white people. So from that moment till today, when they understood that they needed to establish white supremacy, everything that they do, it is about that.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about some regular individual Europeans who have a great sense of humanity. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about people who supported the struggle. There are many people, white, yellow, green, whatever, everywhere in the world who believe in justice and freedom for everyone. But I'm talking about the people who have been in power in leading the European countries. So when they did slavery for 400 years, when it was finishing, because of many other factors, they came with a concept called the legitimate commerce. as they wanted to oppose it to slavery, which all of a sudden, after 400 years, was seen as a illegitimate commerce.
Right.
And then when slavery was ending, they decided that the slaves who were many of them were becoming free, that they could not stay in the United States anymore. From Thomas Jefferson to James Madison to Abraham Lincoln, James Monroe. I'm talking about American presidents. All of them, they were in favor of the repatriation of Black people from the United States.
We have Monrovia.
That is how Liberia was created, and then the name Monrovia bears the name of the American president James Monroe, who was a part or in favor of, listen to the name of the agency, the American Colonization Society. The British did the same thing with Sierra Leone. And then as they did that, and then now that the Industrial Revolution was booming, then they said that, you know what, they needed some resources. They started looking for resources almost everywhere. China, India, Africa, South America, the same European powers. In the meantime, America was going to be created, but before America, it's the same players. France, England, Germany, Belgium, all of them. This is what they did. And then there were several generations of nationalists who were going to fight each time for Africa or the people of African descent to be free. And anytime people reach a level of freedom, then they devise another system. This is what they did. And then when they saw that people were becoming independent, they came with a concept called, that Kwame Nkrumah and many other people call neocolonialism.
Right.
So we are not going to waste time on that. What we know is that my first president, Ufo-Boigny, who served the interests of the French so well that one day they asked him why he did not build a factory to transform cocoa in Ivory Coast. He said, I read it, if I wanted to do that, the Europeans were not going to allow me to do that. African leaders, they are not stupid. There are some who do not have vision. There are some who want to do the right thing. And now the Europeans want to be able to put the Tshisekedi in power so that they can manipulate them. They can want to put the Blaise Compaorés in power. They want to be able to put the Alassane Ouattaras in power so that those people can serve their interest.
And the big question, Ndugu Lagoke, is how do we counter this threat? Because it is a threat.
Now, let me finish with the Senegalese lady. So, socialism has its shares of failures, the same way with capitalism.
Right.
And then Ubuntu that we talk about is not a panacea, is not a perfect ideology either. Tomorrow, we may encounter many other mistakes, we may make mistakes, but you cannot come and say, in the light of what I just said, that everything that is happening in Africa, it is just about socialism. Ufo-Boigny was not a socialist.
Right.
But guess what? When he developed the country, when people were talking about the Ivorian miracle, in the end, most of the things in Africa, most of the things that they belong to the French. The third bridge, or the fourth bridges that Ouattara is building, all the bridges, they have to be done by the French. And then what? The metro that he is building, it has to belong to the French. So, and then we're going to be using it for 30 years and reimburse the money. Listen, so if you don't take that into account, and then you think that it is because Alassane Ouattara is so stupid that he's doing that, no. It is that system that does not allow self-empowerment, self-determination, and economic empowerment of the Africans. So for us, that is the primary cause of the underdevelopment of Africa before our own flaws and before socialism and capitalism.
Right. In fact, Nyerere was asked the same question also.
Okay.
That, now that socialism has been a failure in Tanzania, by Charlene Hunter Gold, in fact. And Nyerere said, who told you it was a failure in Tanzania? And look at all the other African countries. most of them, practically all of them, claim to be capitalists.
Yes.
Show me a success story in those countries.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
so why don't you go and ask them the same question?
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
Capitalism has been a failure in your country.
Yeah, thank you.
She didn't even know how to respond after that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, do we want to address Eric Prince talking about?
I don't.
I don't.
Okay.
What was that?
Eric, to do a show on Eric Prince? No.
No, not a whole show. Do we want to quickly address it?
Oh, I see.
Our community has asked for it. I don't want to. I agree with you, Allimadi. It's giving him too much. Yeah, not a show, but can we address it?
Address what?
Eric Prince, the founder of Blackwater, the mercenary company that supported by the United States government, said that they need to recolonize.
No, listen. I know he's a killer, but I'm going to still say that.
Listen.
Yeah, I'm going to say it. The guy is just dreaming.
Good.
He's dreaming. The guy is dreaming.
In white supremacy land, right?
No, he's dreaming, and there is no way. I'm going to talk about it. He's dreaming. Even when America thought that they could control Africa, they did not even control Africa. They can go and put all those military bases in Africa. They can. But Africa is not the problem. China is going to surpass America in the next 20 years. India surpassed already England. And we know that England colonized India. England colonized India for 200 years.
And even dominated China at one point.
They took part of China. They did that for 200 years. They were in India. Today, India surpassed England. And England is that they may even break up into Scotland, Wales, and then England, Great Britain. So listen, and I'm continue. James Wolferson, who was the president of the World Bank, it is online. People can go and see it. If I remember the title, I will give you the title of his presentation. He gave the lecture maybe 10 years ago. It is scary for the Europeans.
Yes.
We understand their fear, but it's not by colonizing Africa they're going to resolve the issue. Because we are not the problem. The problem of the United States of America is Russia that survived the sanctions of the United States in the war against Ukraine. It is Russia that is even stronger today than it was before the war.
Correct.
It is Russia that is building a polycentric world. It is Russia that is trading with China and India and Brazil in the respective countries of those countries. It is Russia that has 6,000 nuclear bombs. It is China that has 1,500,000,000 people that has also nuclear bombs. Listen, it is China and India that are trading with Russia that replaced that are giving to Russia the money that Russia was getting from Germany. Listen, the people in America, listen, they don't understand that the world has changed.
Yes.
And then let's even talk about the Africans. 10 years ago or 15 years ago, how many Africans were proud to say that they were Africans? Give me, how many?
That's true.
People like
let me answer that question to you.
Go ahead, talk about
because 10, 15 years ago, I would encounter some Africans on the street and their eyes would turn away.
Yes.
So that's to answer your question.
Yeah. So this is so 50 years ago. So there were people like Maurice Carnet, Netfa Freeman, Hede Beno, Milton, Nduku, some other one, George Governor, people like that. And then with some other ones in different parts, Malema, people were trying. Today, there is no way they can subdue that Pan-African consciousness that is becoming stronger. There is no way.
I believe you. I believe we will fight with our bare hands.
They are dreaming.
Yeah.
I don't even want to waste my time to talk about somebody who may even die like in the next 10, 15 years. And how many people are even going to talk about his project?
Maybe sooner, but yes.
So we just organized as an Ivorian, we organized the Africa Cup of Nations. Mr. Ouattara is not my favorite. I have attacked the guy. I have denounced the guy in many of my interviews.
Yes.
Somehow, he brought the cup. He wanted to organize the cup, and he said he was going to organize maybe the best African Cup of Nations.
Mm-hmm.
Said, have you seen CNN talking about how the cup was successful? Have you seen that? Have you seen like BBC, all those media that listen to me, if people were dead in Ivory Coast during the opening ceremony, or people were dead during the closing ceremony,
it would be on front page.
There was a stampede, yes.
People, it would be on the front page. This one people have to understand. They don't want a success story coming from Africa.
Exactly.
The Africa Cup of Nations, under the leadership of Ouattara, despite everything that he did to come to power using violence, it was a success story. And then no one can take that away from Africans. Morocco would like to do better than Ivory Coast in 2025. And then people who are going to come after Morocco, they want to try what? An elevated standards.
Yes.
So we too, as human beings, we like good things. So listen, if they come with a new system, guess what? We have the Imhotep in the age of the ancient civilization. We have Beyanze and Dahomey. We have Samori Touré. And when after they killed Samori Touré, Beyanze, and then Dessalines, and then Toussaint Louverture in Haiti, or they thought they were done with us. We don't disappear. We just multiply. And we have the generation of the Nkrumahs, the Amamika Cabral, the Sekou Touré, the Malcolm and the King. And then when they destroyed them, and then they put Nelson Mandela in prison, Roberto Sobukwe was dead after they did all those things. And they tried to destroy the legacy of Winnie Mandela after they did all those things. Here we are again. In the 21st century, in the age of the social media, there is no way they can control our narrative. And then we have many, they don't know how to do. Now they want to go and put drones in and bases here, and then at the end, do what? What are you achieving? I'm going to conclude on that. One day I went to Burlington. There was a group of white Americans there, and I told them that multiplying military bases is not the solution. If you put 800 military bases in the world, if there is a war, and then there is a nuclear war, I said what I'm going to say. I said that, and I will tell you. This is what I tell white people. If there is a war between China and America, and they use the nuclear bombs, where do you think there will be many more people who are going to die? Or which population is going to be reduced faster than the other? In America, we have 340 million people. China, there are 1,500 million people. So it is just crazy for people to think that they can just scare people by saying that they're going to do war everywhere. But there is no way they're going to do a real war against China or a real war against Russia, even if Vladimir Putin is overthrown. The same way yesterday there was Stalin, and they thought that Stalin was gone. They were not going to see like a powerful leader in Russia. Russia went down, and Russia came back, and they are Putin. Putin is gone. And the next 20 or 30 or 50 years, there will be another leader in Russia, because the type of leader that Russia produces is in line with the soul of Russia. That the same way we, in the case of Africa, there will always be generation of people who are going to stand against white supremacy. So I don't have any problem with that guy. He can say what he wants. We still alive. And guess what? Even if we die, Kwame Nkrumah is gone, but we still talking about him. Do you understand?
Yes.
Our speeches, our narrative, what we write, everything, we will leave that for future generations, and they're going to do better than us. Excellent. So I'm not even interested in talking about that guy. I don't even know his name.
Very good. In fact, you asked us 3 times before we.
Yeah. Even I've been asking. I said, "Who is that?" I saw the video, by the way, but I don't even remember his name. Yes. For me, I don't even waste time with people like that.
Thank you. So, community, I hope that resolves that, because Professor Lagoke, Dr. Lagoke, is right. We indulge in too much nonsense. I'm not saying we ignore it. Yes, let's see it as a threat. Let's see it for what it is. This person is the bully in school who challenges you to a fight after school, right, at the playing field. So let's see him for what he is. Let's keep it in our mind, but let's not focus too much time on him, because he is just an insecure white man who wants to flex and show that he's worth something when he realizes he's worth nothing, right? So thank you all. Allimadi, Lagoke, any last words?
Oh, listen, I want to thank Nduku and Milton for this conversation. This is the historical document, what we did. It's sharing. I learned from you guys, I try to share some knowledge for people to listen. It's a work in progress. We are working on that. We need to come with our own voice, our own narrative, and our own vision of the world. And then thank God we have discovered Ubuntu. We are claiming it. And then Obama, during Mandela's funeral, used it. Bill Clinton went to, in his commencement speech, somewhere, like I don't know, maybe Harvard, years ago, he used the word Ubuntu. He went to England, he used the word Ubuntu. There is a boy, like a filmmaker, an actor, very popular. I forgot his name. He just came back from South Africa months ago last year. He was impressed with the concept of Ubuntu. The Ukrainian minister who went, the Ukrainian minister who went to South Africa to ask South Africa to be on the side in the name of Ubuntu, in the name of Ubuntu. So everyone understand the
Isn't it
value.
interesting when the criminals come to ask you, could you be nice in the name of Ubuntu?
Oh, yeah, the name of
Move
it.
outside.
So all of them, they talk about Ubuntu. Maybe another time we will have time to talk about why Ubuntu became so popular. But yeah, so
The abuse of Ubuntu.
the
I
user.
want us
So
to have that
yeah, so
conversation.
Ubuntu is like for us, even though Steve Biko did not use that word in one of his famous statements when he was saying that Africa was going to provide like a gift to the world.
Right.
And then he was talking about like the values of Africa. And
Right.
for us, Ubuntu seemed to be that value system that Thabo Mbeki was certainly referring to. And so we are there. And then I think also, I mentioned some names here. People I learned from. Symphoria is one of them. Joan Broderick is one of them. Christian Gade is one of them. Listen, there are people produced. Leonard Prague, I forgot to talk about him. He's talking about the narratives of return. When we were talking about Sankofa, we have to go back to the past. The beautiful things, and then we continue the conversation. And then we think, I'm convinced, and I don't even have a doubt. When I was one of the people talking about Ubuntu a couple of years ago, some of my friends were questioning, why you talk about Ubuntu? There are many other concepts. And then guess what? Two of those friends, I saw that they published some articles and using Ubuntu. So then you can imagine it is making its inroads and making progress. And I thank you, and I thank the divine God who thought that I could be like a channel of the transmission or the spread of Ubuntu and Pan-Africanism. And that's it. Thank you very much.
You
Very
forgot
good.
about Lomé. We
Terrible.
forgot about Lomé. Quickly, Lomé.
Oh, okay. So what should I say about it?
They want to know when, the time, what, any updates. Any updates.
Okay.
This is our website for information.
Okay. Yeah, so there is going to be the 9th Pan-African Congress to be held in Togo, October 29, November the 2nd. And then I was appointed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Togo, Professor Dussé, to be the chairman of the scientific committee. So we are still doing the work. And then there were, according to the plan, 6 regional conferences are going to be organized. One took already place in South Africa in December. And then during that conference, somehow we made sure that Ubuntu be inserted in the final declaration as the paradigm around which to think about Pan-Africanism in the 21st century. And the upcoming conference should be Brazil, from May the 20th to the 22nd, 2024. That conference will be the conference of the diaspora, and then so hopefully it's going to be a great moment, and that conference will be about restitution, restoration, and then reparations, and then so that's a conference for the diaspora. As I was talking to us, I received an email, a message from my a friend of mine who is member of the scientific committee in Brazil. Said that which I did not know, that President Lula was at Addis Ababa. This is what I'm seeing here. That
Yeah, he had the AU meeting.
yeah, and then he gave a speech there, and then he spoke about the Non-Pan-African Congress. So it means that President Lula himself is involved in the process, thanks to the diplomatic relationship between Togo and Brazil. And then so it can be a good moment for us to talk about internationalism, Pan-Africanism, the BRICS, reparations, and Ubuntu. And yes, so the website is there. Go on the website. The website is www.pac9 pac9-lomé2024.com. So
Does
that is
does the E have the little thing?
no. In
Okay.
English, that's the dictatorship of the English language.
Yes.
They don't recognize their French accents.
All right.
That's the hegemony of the English language.
Allimadi has to run quick. Allimadi, any goodbyes?
As Samara Machel used to say, "Aluta continua."
Yeah, thanks, my brother.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Siku
then-
njema, kwaherini. I hope we addressed everything that you all wanted addressed today. Kwaherini.
Thank you.